Hello and happy days to each of you folks. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. Today, one of the best you've ever had in your entire life for you folks. Today we're taking a look at the 14-page short stories in this collection by Brian Lumley for you folks. It's called I'm sure I will slaughter this. Haggopian and Other Stories for you folks. It's a collection of many of his Cthulhu Mythos short stories that were written mostly in Generation 2 and Generation 3 of the Cthulhu Mythos. And that sort of a thing too. This is about, it's called The Night the Sea-Maid Went Down, and it's the telling of the last person who survived the destruction of this ship. So basically, what's happening, Brian Lumley or myself, is that this is basically in a shared universe created by H.P. Lovecraft back in the Ball Bear. So basically what happens when he was writing is that he wanted to keep a lot of his, things engaged. So he started to bring things in from his same stories like the Necronomicon or places like Innsmouth or the Miskatonic University. That sort of a place to set up in seedy New England. So basically what will happen in that cosmic horror show universe with the Call of Cthulhu is that he sort of has that interest. So basically what happens, and he's actually became my favorite author when I was in college and read a 3-volume collection of him, and that sort of a thing too, of all of his prose collections that he wrote himself, that he didn't ghostwrite or edit or co-write with other authors, and that sort of thing too. One of those was this Cthulhu Mythos things. He actually became my favorite author then, although it was previously Michael Moorcock and people like, and then before that, people like R. Salvatore, J.R. Tolkien. That's definitely in the fantasy side of things. But then I became a horror fan, and after reading that 3-volume collection of his horror and his fantasy works and of the Dreamlands and the second collection, I actually went and finished off, read all of his shared things in a 2-volume novel size collection, and then I went and read like a lot, and this is in the mid-90s, a lot of Cthulhu Mythos stuff, like probably more than, by now, I've probably read more than 1,000 Cthulhu Mythos short stories, as well as other horror stuff too. And horror has become my favorite genre, particularly short stories. And that sort of thing too. Now, Brian Lumley started as a Cthulhu Mythos fan, he was reading as a fan in the era when August Derleth took this over after J.R. Tolkien. J.R. Tolkien died. Although he died too, but we're talking about H.P. Lovecraft died in 1937. And that sort of a thing too. And so basically what would happen is that August Derleth took it over as the main editor and kept the dream alive of Arkham House. So Brian Lumley will start sending out short stories to Arkham House, and after he has really sort of pushed himself to the next level writing style wise. He'll actually move to novels with the Necroscope series. And that sort of thing too. We're trying to Lovecraft Mythos. I thought, well, Lovecraft Mythos might be a nice name for us, probably. Cthulhu Mythos would be the better name though. But yeah, so here's what. But so this is being written in his era. So Brian Lumley was actually a sailor. So he derives on that experience of himself. So basically, what's happening here with The Night the Sea-Maid Went Down is that we have somebody who is just rescued, and that sort of a thing too. And they came across a Cthulhu Mythos being. So basically, they were in the British North Seas with patrolling, trying to find and drilling, looking for oil to bring up, and that sort of the thing too. That's basically, and so they were all on that thing, and this guy was in charge of that expedition after it was sailing out. And actually, this ship had some issues after being put together. It took a little bit while for them to fix it and get it ready for its inaugural run. And he's on the inaugural run now, a few months in. And he has a lot of crew and that sort of a thing too. And basically, he has a rigger. And as they move north and they run into some fog, and they actually find a star sign, which is a 5-point shaped rock that looks it's about the size of a starfish, but it's actually, if you'll know your mythos stuff, it's actually protection against the big bads. Basically. And then the rigger will tell him to stop the mission. and that sort of thing too, because this is now not good that they have found this while drilling to try to find a well, and that sort of a thing in the North Sea. So when our captain initially says he's just a rigger, they're all suspicious, right? It's just a rock. But then he has his scent. It's just a fossil of, right, a starfish, right? And so he has his scientist on board analyze it and send it back to him, and it's actually not. And it's about 4 or 5 pages in, so I'll leave it to you there. So what will wind up happening after he realizes that this isn't. But basically he has set up this story by saying, you're not going to believe me. And that sort of a thing too. But I feel like I need to warn you, because then I'll feel better, because you need to stop this North Sea expeditions. And that sort of a thing too. But there you are, we're about 4 or 5 pages in. But what will happen after he learns that this is actually something other than a fossilized starfish, right? That's sort of the thing too. You can find out all in block, and then how does now you already know that it's doomed from the title, right? But how does it fall? That sort of a thing down and went down for this, folks. But I hope you enjoyed that idea, and that sort of a thing for you, folks. Now, so I do like this idea of it being set on sea and what's happening, but it's set in the era of the Cthulhu Mythos where what's happening is a little, it's in the Derleth era, so I got to blame Derleth for it. He made it survive and that sort of thing. But one of the things that we get is his, and also in the end of the Generation 1 of Lovecraft, there are some ones in that era too, when he's being written, that are sort of making this about two elders, the elder gods versus the old ones, and that sort of thing too. And so, this is a sign of the elder ones. It's in the Cthulhu Mythos, right? And that sort of a thing too. But it kind of turns into a from this cult one is everybody hates you, nobody likes you, nobody knows about you, and if they are so small and so powerful that if you knew the littlest bit, right, about what was actually happening, you go mad. And if they found out that you existed, they will take you out, or if they bothered to. But they're so big and so powerful, they might not even need to, right? And that's the universe. But it kind of changes it from that era. And when Lovecraft was writing it into a more traditional narrative where we can stop that, right? And that sort of a thing too, by bringing up the elder gods. That sort of a thing too, and they're clearly, the star sign is clearly there, but it's in the mythos, so I can't blame him for using mythos elements that are already existing that he didn't create, and that sort of a thing makes sense. But in the same way, it doesn't feel like it's really doing anything with it either, right? So it's nice. I like the idea of it being set on the sea. I like his, sea experience. That sort of thing too, but I just, the turning of the mythos into that good versus evil. Well, I don't know if you call the elder gods good, but they're certainly against the evil people that we all know, and that sort of thing too, and more of a traditional sort of a take, and that sort of a thing too. But he's playing right on into that. That's the thing too. Turns this into less of a stronger horror source. They're like, we're all on our own, we got to leave these people be. And that's sort of a thing too, right? Although this is a leave these people be, the concept and the ending, right? That's sort of thing too. We don't want to wake them up. We don't want them to know that we're there, and that sort of a thing too. But by flavoring it as within that thing. So I'm not sure. I was thinking between a 6 and an 8. I like the writing. I like the descriptions. I like that he knows what he's talking about, the sailors. And also, I'm feeling like, but I don't like how he has to use some stuff that I'm not a big fan of. So let's give it a 7. It's a 7 for you folks. Alrighty, and there you are. What did you think? Have you read this and so forth? Let me know what your thoughts are. Remember, I'm not a trained critic. I didn't study English in college either. Right? I'm just a fan. So that means I'm not coming to you from a place of expertise. I'm just coming to you from a place of, as a fan, just like you are, right? So definitely check it out. Please also try to keep this spoiler free. It's written decades ago. you probably want to talk about. I try to keep it spelled out for you. All I got you up to is about 4 pages into a 14-page short story. Please don't give them the last 10. Although I get some time, but you get the idea. And then also, if you are, I also do on Monday I do reviews of older tabletop RPGs like Dungeons and Dragons or Middle-earth role-playing or things like Battletech war games. And then on Wednesday, I do older video game reviews. For your folks, I've done things like Star Control 2 from the 90s. I've done the Baldur's Gate series. I've done, a few years ago, like Elden Ring and that sort of thing, too, as well as things like Stellaris, Star Control, things like I already mentioned that. All sorts of things like that. And then on Saturday, something I call Serial Saturday, which is dedicated to the forgotten storytelling genres of telling stories from the pulp era to when Lovecraft was around, and publishing, or even people like Robert D. Howard and Clark Ashton Smith were too. And then 3 days a week like this, I do reviews of older things in the 3 genres that we cover: fantasy, science fiction, and horror too. Right, all for you folks. And so if those 7 older reviews a week, if that sounds like your cup of tea, well then great. Welcome to the channel. And while you're here, please do all the YouTube stuff. Hit the subscribe button, like button, bell icon, all that stuff, dude. And then, as you can tell from those 7 older things a week and finding them and unlocking them for you too, it's definitely a passion of this channel for you folks, right? It's also where its name even comes from too. The worst thing about new books, it's a quote by a French philosopher, Jacques Joubert, says that the worst thing about them was that they kept us from reading the old stuff, right? Not that the new stuff is bad by default, right? It's not, but you get the idea. It's not, but it's standing on the shoulders of giants, right? So let's check out that H.P. Lovecraft, that Brian Lumley, that August Derleth, right? That sort of thing too. All right, and there you go. And I want to thank you so very, very much for just taking some time out of your day and investing in it, right? And watching my videos, because we all have so many things that are happening in our lives, right? And we're pulled in so many different directions too. So the fact you spent this time with me, that's incredibly humbling. And I appreciate that so very, very much. So thanks again and have an amazing day.